I'm very proud of it. I'm excited that this is our first children's book. I've worked on another one since then. Um, it's a little bit more. Is that the dog? Was that your
Yeah.
stomach?
That was the
It was a dog. Hi, I'm Vinny Corbo, publisher at Volossal Publishing, and I'm here with Clement and Judy Aiston, authors of the children's book, The Adventures of Molly the Beagle. I'm very excited to have them both because in probably 14 years of publishing, Volossal, this is our first children's book. So we are very excited to have them on board and to do this project. So my first question is, how do you guys know each other?
I guess she's hitting me, so that means I'm speaking. Well, I was working at the local hospital in the respiratory care department, and in walks Judy, and she says, "Hey, I'm Judy.
Yes.
I'm one of the new therapists," and I just went, "Hey," and
That was in the year 2000, so it's
year
been a while.
2000. Okay,
So has it been a 20-year plus friendship?
that's right.
And can you tell everybody exactly what you do? Because I find that kind of interesting.
Oh, well, we're both retired now, but we were respiratory therapists. And what a respiratory therapist does generally is, manage people on ventilators and, just helping them breathe in general, doing breathing treatments and what we call chest physiotherapy, different modalities that, in other words, will help clear the lungs to let them breathe easier.
Asthma and chronic lung disease. We help people with that.
Okay, and you guys were both very active at the beginning of the COVID pandemic.
That is correct.
About how many patients between the two of you together did you think you treated?
Oh boy.
Well, on a typical day, then we would have about 20 patients.
Together, like 10
No,
each, or?
Yeah.
Each, and that was a 12-hour shift. So,
And so you did 12-hour shifts in the beginning? Wow.
mhm.
And you had to wear all the PPE and everything?
Oh, yeah. Gowns, gloves, masks, hats, shoes, everything.
And did you have any patients die from this?
Oh, absolutely. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
yes.
especially in the beginning of COVID when the whole medical team didn't really know how to treat these people. It was just so different. People would get very sick very fast. And unfortunately, a lot of them did die. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a friend who got it and died very
Oh,
quickly, like 2.5 days, really.
oh,
It's interesting that work friends still remain friends after work, because sometimes that doesn't happen.
No, most of the time that actually doesn't happen. Claire happened to go to high school with my husband, so we did become like travel buddies, like double date kind of travel buddies too. You don't often find couples that, all four people are compatible with one another for traveling and, maybe to dinner, but, traveling's a different thing.
yeah, we spent 10 days together in Ireland.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely tests the limits of friendship.
Yeah.
That'll do it. And especially I know how much Judy loves airlines. So
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I do love flying. It's everything that is, involved in it is what I don't like.
I wanted to ask you about Molly. So Claire, Molly was your dog,
Correct.
but all four of you, you and both of your husbands, everybody knew Molly?
I knew Molly. Yeah. I knew Molly
Okay.
toward the end of her lifetime.
Yeah.
So Molly was a beagle, but what kind of dog was Molly personality-wise?
Well, she was a very independent little soul, and she didn't like being confined. So she would do her darndest to break out of our yard. We had the invisible fence. I don't know if you're familiar with the collar the dog wears. And she was like, oh, later for this. This doesn't keep me back. She would take the shock and keep running. We had a wood fence with some lattice. And while I was out shopping one day, she chewed through the lattice. She actually got a piece stuck up in the roof of her mouth. And we didn't realize it right away. We wondered why she wouldn't eat the ear of corn that we put down because she loved corn. And then it was one of our neighbors who said, something's wrong with Molly. And he put his finger up by the roof of her mouth and said, oh, that's what's going on. So she got around the neighborhood. She had a lot of fun, but she would always come back in the evening, settle down with our little Max.
It wasn't like she wasn't happy there. She just
Right,
liked to go out and explore. Okay.
exactly.
That's the inspiration for the story. What came first? Did you guys decide together to write the book, or did you have the story first and then ask Judy to? How did that all come about?
Well, I had the story first. It took me probably 2.5 years to write and get edited. And then I started looking for an illustrator, and I had a couple of people say they would do it, and then they kind of backed out for one reason or another. And then my friend here, she said, you know what? I think I'm going to give it a try. If you're patient with me and, see what I can do. And then how did you go about that, Jude?
Well, I remember when you first had asked me, I thought, I hadn't done any kind of artwork because originally, before I was a respiratory therapist, I was a graphic artist, but we didn't do things on, it wasn't electronic when I was in the business. It was all, T squares, mechanical pens, and paste up stuff. So I didn't want to, try to take something on that I wouldn't be, like current. I didn't want to give her old technology or no technology. And I was talking to my son about it, who's an IT professional, and he suggested me get a program to put something like a Photoshop to put on an iPad. And after she had a few failed artists flake out on her, I figured I'd give it a try. So, yeah.
I think it's interesting. Maybe we should let everybody know how you did it, because most people, if we were going to do something this, they would either work modern software, so to speak, like Illustrator, and use a Wacom tablet with a pen,
Mm-hmm.
or they would work freehand, and then we would photograph or scan in the artwork. You used a program that came on the iPad.
No, I did purchase it. It was just kind of a
Right. No, I mean, you purchased it for the iPad. It wasn't a regular computer program.
right. I wanted something that I could, travel with and use in my free time. So that's why I went for the iPad.
We should mention that the characters in the book are members of your family.
Well, at least one of them, there were definitely members of Claire's family. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're real people. They're not what I'm saying.
Yes.
They're not imagined
Based on a
characters.
true story.
That's right.
Okay. And it is a true story. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the story that this particular time that Molly went exploring?
Well, in the very beginning, before we knew Molly, she was found wandering a place called Harriman State Park. And some hikers, as told in the story, saw her, and she came running towards them, and she looked very skinny, and, it had been a while since she had something to eat. So she was taken to the shelter nearby, and they had her there with many other dogs. The shelter named her Wilma, like Wilma Flintstone.
Okay.
So when my son and I went to look, we wanted a companion for our older dog. I loved her face and her little wagging tail, and she came right up to us, but I didn't like the name Wilma. No offense to any Wilmas who might be listening in, but we agreed on the name Molly if she was available. So we were told a few days later that no one had come to claim her, and that's how the story started.
And you adopted Molly. How many years was she with you?
She was with us for 8 years.
Okay.
She was a year or two older.
Yeah, so this is a great way to immortalize her, that she's now Molly lives on in a story, which is very
Mm-hmm.
nice. In this particular story, uh, not to give it all away, but she is brought home by the police and gets into mischief and things like that. So basically, she's the not the neighborhood villain, but the neighborhood rapscallion, so to speak.
She was quite the corker, that one. And yeah, she got around. Most people, you know, who knew her didn't necessarily know me, but every so often I would take her on a walk with a leash like a real dog. And people would say, "Oh, you're Molly's mother." So they knew her, they just didn't know me.
One of the things that happens with a major publisher, things like that, is that you don't have the freedom to make many revisions or changes or things like that, and they may send you one proof, but a lot of times once you sign with them, they can do whatever they want, and they'll often change the title. Molly's name could have been changed to back to Wilma. They can put whatever artwork they want, and change the illustrations. And you certainly, once it comes out, there's not much you can do. In this case, with Volossal, we were all very satisfied with the book when we finished it. The mechanicals looked good. Everything was great. It went to press. It went into distribution, and we got the first case. And Judy looked at it and said, "You know what? I'm not completely thrilled with the way that some of the stuff is lining up. Um, I think I can make this better. Is it possible to do that?" And because we have total control, the answer is yes. So we got to work, and what are you thinking, about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks at the most?
Mm-hmm.
Um, we must have revised 5, 6, maybe even 7 of the illustrations. They're significantly better, and reissued the book, and no problem. And I
Right.
think it looks great. I'm very proud of it. I'm excited that this is our first children's book. I've worked on another one since then. Um, it's a little bit more. Is that the dog? Was that your
Yeah.
stomach?
That was the dog.
It was a dog. That's why you get a
We're
dog, so
dog
you can
lovers.
pet.
What
It's a
can we
Boston
say?
Terrier asleep with his brother over here.
Okay, you'll have to show him. Now that sort of COVID is ending, do you guys have any plans to go to any places to read the story to children?
I went to my granddaughter's daycare and read it there. I mean,
How'd that go?
they were pretty little. I think our target audience is a little older than that what they were, because they were toddlers. But I did keep their interest for a short time with it because it's a pretty colorful book.
Kids need to see things big. So we got the lettering nice and big. The pictures are very vibrant, and the story is it's very easy to follow. There's nothing. Um, it's all good. I really like it, and I'm really proud of this one. I mean, there's a lot of children's books, but this one's a little bit different. And it's the cover is really banging, so they'll probably bite just based on
Yeah,
that.
turned out good.
Yeah, yeah, no, I'm really happy with it. Um, any plans to write a second book of any kind?
Of any kind. Well, we've talked about it, and I pretty much said, well, let's promote this one as best we can first. Get it
Absolutely.
out there. I got information on the 17 local libraries in our county, and I'm going to get the contact people and reach out to them, like you said. I also went to one in my town, and the librarian there said she would be more than happy to bring me in for a reading hour and even to maybe catalog the book into their library.
And you can bring a copy yourself. They don't have to buy it from Ingram. They can literally get it from you, and you could just donate it to them.
I did. I brought one in, and she also said that when I do go in to do a reading to a group of kids for story hour, she has no problem with me bringing a stack of books to sell to the moms and dads who might be interested at a discount.
Great.
So,
And you have the inside cover, which is white, so you can always autograph them for the kids
right.
or the families or whatever. That's always a nice thing. People seem to like signed books for some reason.
Yes, yes.
Funny thing happened when I went into my doctor's office to have a test, gastrointestinal doctor's office, and I had on this Molly mask that I had made for Judy and myself.
Oh, that's great.
Can you see? Can
That's
you see?
great.
All right. So I had this mask on, and she looks at it and she says, "Oh, is that a beagle?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Oh, named Molly." I said, "Yep." I said, "My friend and I just had a book published." She goes, "I have a beagle named Molly."
Wow.
And I said, "Do you really?" I said, "Well, I'll make sure I get you a copy." So I signed a copy, stopped by her office, and dropped one off for her. And then about a week later, she called me up to thank me so much that her family enjoyed it. And pretty coincidental, right? Your doctor's got a beagle named Molly.
Well, that's the interesting thing. You put these things out into the world, and you do not know where they're going to go and who they're going to reach. It's a very exciting kind of thing. That just reminded me, maybe it might be worthwhile to donate some to some children's hospitals. There's St. Jude's out here, and I'm sure they would put it in the rack and bring it to kids. I know that would be amazing. And that's the thing with longevity, that a child might. I remember the book that I read when I was a kid called Anne Likes Red, and I remember it to this day. So, it's one of those things that can last and last and last as these kids grow up, and then they want their kids to read it or whatever. They have a special attachment to a certain book, and especially maybe they were in the hospital. It was a rough time. That book was comforting. Now they're attached to it, and there you go. So how many masks did you make?
I had 2 adult and 2 children masks for each one of us.
Okay.
And I was going to order some when I do a reading.
Oh, nice. Okay.
For the group. I wasn't sure how they turn out. I wanted to see the quality.
Or how long COVID was going to last, that we were going to need the masks.
We were thinking positive too. But Judy had a T-shirt. Oh, we're not wearing our T-shirts. Oh boy, we're not as prepared as we could have been, Vin.
I thought about the T-shirt. It's a little chilly for a T-shirt today.
Well, whatever it is, you can always send me a picture. Send me a picture, and I'll put it on the screen. Judy, something also very interesting about you that I think people would find interesting is you are also the world famous Twippy the Clown.
That's correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about your career as Twippy the Clown, how you started, how you got the name, what you did, all the things you did?
Well, I started that when I was 23, so that was a number of years ago.
So 5 years ago.
Yeah, 5. And I started it just to entertain kids in hospitals was my goal. And then I ended up meeting a gentleman who was a professional clown. And I said to him, "Oh, I'd like to make balloons and, go into hospitals and see what I can do for kids." And he said, "Well, you should take my class." And so I took his class in clowning, and they taught us how to design our costume and our face and develop a character and a name. And I did so. And at the time I was working at a local newspaper, as a graphic artist. And I was telling one of the editors what I was doing, and she said, "Oh, that would be a really great human interest story. Can I do a story about you?" And I said, "Sure." I go to this children's rehab place once a month because it's a pretty good audience there. They weren't going anywhere for a while. So they did a story, and then people started calling me and asking me, "Oh, do you do parties?" And before I knew it, it just kind of snowballed into a business that I ended up working at full time. My clown instructor told me, "You're going to quit your job and do this full time." And I told him there's no way. But he was right. I ended up quitting my job and clowning full time for about probably
35 years.
Well, I ended up doing it across, 33 years, but I was full time for about 8 years. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, it's a life well spent. I mean, you clearly are artistic in, multi mediums from, drawing and
She is.
clowning and all that stuff, and then graphic design. So you're a multifaceted, creative person. The
Thank you.
fact that you used it for children and now again for children is
Mhm.
really wonderful. We need more people like you.
Thanks, Fanny.
So in the back of the book, is it in front of the book or the back of the book, we have a dedication.
Well, the front of the book, we have a dedication.
Okay, so tell me about that.
All right. Without going into too much detail, I lost my wonderful son, Paul, at the age of 34 in 2018. And he was a bright light in our lives. And his death was untimely. And all I can say is he was such a dog lover. He did go with me to pick out Molly from
He's in the book.
yeah, he's in the book, right? Judy put him in there, and it just felt good to devote the book to him.
That's amazing. And it's another thing for people watching to understand that we don't have control necessarily over who stays with us and who doesn't and for how long we get them. But using our art is a great way to immortalize someone, to honor their memory, to keep them with us in our hearts. I tend to write songs or use people who have passed names for song titles, especially for instrumentals. If you look at my albums, you'll see Chicky and things like that. The people that I knew that passed away, but there's one called "Let Me Be Frank" about Frank Moore. It's a great way to keep them with you and to honor them and immortalize them. So I love that that's part of this book.
Thanks.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the book is fun, and there's definitely a few laughs in there. But a lot of children's books have lessons. Do you think that your book provides that?
Yes, I think when Claire was going to her editor, she pointed out that yes, there are supposed to be some lessons in a children's book. So, what did they tell you?
Yes. So, even if it's not all that obvious, to be worked into the story, I think one of the first things I felt was good for kids to know is that the shelters, the animal shelters, have a lot of animals who are waiting for homes. And it may be a good choice for some families. And you can get to go visit them, take them for walks, and, give them a home. And then when we brought Molly home, the fact that our existing dog wasn't all that happy with the idea, we gave him time and space. So I think that's important too for kids to know that animals don't always gel immediately. Sometimes they need a little time, just like people do. And then what was the next lesson after that?
Well, it was, if you find a dog, you bring it to the shelter.
Right.
You don't just say, "Hey, this is my dog now."
Yeah,
No.
hopefully someone finds him.
That's a good point. I also like the way you portrayed the police officer, showing them in a positive light. especially in the times that we live. It's nice for kids to see police officers shown as friends.
Right. The policeman is your friend, right? Molly hanging out of the police car? That was a good one. When Judy brought that one in, I said, I like it.
Are you going to show Bo and Bentley so we can see them?
Oh,
Yeah. Get them up. They're sitting near Claire.
Are they
Come on,
going to
guys.
let me pick them up? Okay. Oh, man, he's heavier than he looked.
He's heavy.
Oh, there he is.
That's Bentley.
That's Bentley. Come
He's
on, Bo.
sleepy. He's a little sleepy guy.
And here's Bo.
And they're both Beagles.
These guys are Boston Terriers.
Boston Terriers.
Yeah, here we go.
Okay.
Look at the camera.
And also what I like that you did, Vinny, was it was your suggestion that we take a candid shot of Judy and I at work and put it in the back. And at first I'm like, oh no, we had no makeup on. Our hair was all over the place. We had a mask hanging off and whatever. We looked disheveled. Well, I may have looked disheveled. She didn't look so disheveled.
I think we
Probably because I worked harder than her.
Shift,
yeah.
When you sent me that picture, I really loved it because, especially since it marks a very special time, a time that we'll never forget in history. And you guys were an integral part of that time and for saving a lot of people's lives. There's so much good that the two of you have put into the world through clowning and your work as the respiratory therapist, and now you're putting a wonderful children's book out into the world, and then now you're going to go out and meet and read with kids. Yeah, you're two of the good ones. You're okay. You're okay in my book.
You're not so bad yourself, Mr. Vin.
So The Adventures of Molly the Beagle is available everywhere. It's on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. You can go to any bookstore and they will order it for you all across the world, from England, Canada, Australia, India, and even Italy. You can get the book.
Yeah, I think we got a review from Italy. Wasn't it Italy we got a review?
I'm not sure.
And for Christmas, this would be a great, inexpensive stocking stuffer for anyone that has children in their lives. The book is called The Adventures of Molly the Beagle. I'd like to thank Claire Clement and Judy Aiston for joining us today and just being wonderful people and writing a really wonderful children's book for Volossal. See you again.
Thanks. Great talking to you. We'll talk soon.